Hello everyone, welcome to our meeting. I'll declare the meeting open at 7 o'clock. The town of Walkerville would like to acknowledge the Kaurna people as the traditional custodians of the land we are meeting on today and respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We recognise the many generations of stewardship the Kaurna people have provided to this land and respect that their cultural heritage and beliefs are as important today as they were for their ancestors. Present at the meeting today is everyone. We have the full complement of council members and we've got the staff as set out on the screen. There are no apologies tonight. So item 2.3, a leave of absence. So we have already approved Councillor Trotter's leave of absence from the 25th of July to the 8th of August 25, and we have received a new leave of absence request from Councillor Core for the 7th of July to the 11th of July. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So would you like to move that?
Yeah, I would like to move. Give me a second.
And Councillor Trotter has seconded that. Okay, all those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Moving on to item 3 is confirmation of the minutes of meetings. So item 3.1, the ordinary council meeting minutes of the 19th of May 25 be received as true and accurate. Thank you, Councillor Zeppel, and seconded Councillor Vanstone. All those in favour? That's carried. Item 3.2, that the Walkerville Community Committee meeting minutes of the 5th of May 25 be received and noted. It's moved by Councillor Core, seconded by Councillor Trotter. All those in favour? That's carried. Item 3.3, that the Walkerville Sports Club Design Committee meeting minutes of the 26th of May 25 be received and noted. Councillor Williams, thank you. Seconded Councillor Allenson, Deputy Mayor. All those in favour? That's carried. Item 3.4, that the Eastern Health Authority Board meeting minutes of the 14th of May 25 be received and noted. It's moved by Councillor Trotter and seconded by Councillor Vanstone.
Photo finish.
All those in favour? That is carried. Item 3.5, that the Highbury Landfill Authority Board meeting minutes of the 15th of May 25 be received and noted. It's moved by Councillor Zeppel, seconded by Councillor Witt. All those in favour? That's carried. And item 3.6, that the Highbury Landfill Authority Audit Committee meeting minutes of the 15th of May 25 be received and noted. It's moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Ripp. All those in favour? That is carried. Item 4 are declarations of interest. Are there any declarations? Thank you, Councillor Williams.
Yes, thank you, Mayor James. I realised, I think, after the last meeting that I didn't declare an interest in some discussion around the 39 Smith Street or the rec centre site. I always have in the past, and I just forgot at the last meeting, so my apologies for that. So in the confidential items, I think it was, there's some discussion around major projects. I'd like to declare just a general interest in the major projects. As I live next door to the new rec centre, I will remain in the room and vote on the issues as I always have.
Okay, so that's 16.2 is the monthly works report and also the 17.1 major project status report.
It's 1 and 2, I think. Major projects, as well.
And the variations, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
17.2. Okay.
It was almost like it's something that I haven't given any thought to any longer because it's been going on for so long now. You just sort of get in a routine, but I must remember to do that each time.
Any other declarations of interest? Okay. Item 5, business adjourned. We have no business adjourned. Item 6, deputations. We have no deputations. Item 7, petitions. We have no petitions. Item 8, Mayor's Diary. Any questions on the Mayor's Diary? All right, is there a mover? Thank you. I think that was Councillor Ripp and seconded by Councillor Zeppel. All those in favour? That is carried. Thank you. Item 9, council member updates. Councillor Core has an update.
It was absolutely heartbroken with the news about the crash. And Ahmedabad, it was like Air India flight coming from Ahmedabad to London, couldn't take off. So my heart goes out with the families, victims, and all the affected by this accident.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Councillor Britt.
I echo those words from Councillor Core regarding that tragedy. Thursday, the 22nd of May, just want to thank the staff for a successful volunteer awards dinner. Feedback I had around the room was people really valued the format and valued the engagement and liked the out of hours as well. Obviously, we do as well, obviously being able to attend post work, but I did speak to a number in the room and they liked the time of it as well. So I just want to thank the staff for putting on a good event.
Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. And we will be hearing the Deputy Mayor do an impersonation of a minister at some point, but we'll leave that one for him to talk about.
Thank you. Yes. Any other council member update? Councillor Zeppel.
I was able to attend the NCH Foundation, which is held at Adelaide University, so it was good to be there. We're one of the councils that are involved in the social prescribing project. So it was just good to be there and hear what's going on, and I've briefed Sarah, who was unable to be there, on what happened that night.
Excellent, thank you. Any other council member updates? Well, I have one for Councillor James Nenke on his 10 years of service to local government. So tonight we are proud to acknowledge and celebrate a significant milestone in the career of Councillor James Nenke, who marks 10 years of service in local government. James brings a wealth of experience to the council table, not only as a current council member of the town of Walkerville, but through more than 2 decades working in local government in the fields of planning and asset management. His time as a councillor, which began with the City of Campbelltown in 2014, reflects his long-standing commitment to local representation and governance. Since joining the town of Walkerville in 2018, James has been a committed and active member of the council. He and his wife have made the township home, where they're raising their 3 young boys. James brings a strong understanding of assets and infrastructure to his role, with a clear focus on strategic and financially responsible decision-making. He has played a key role in shaping council's asset plans, which will help guide the future of our township. A firm advocate for long-term planning, James is committed to ensuring that council decisions meet today's needs while supporting the sustainability of our community into the future. He's also willing to lend a hand, or in some cases his 3 children, as photo models for council publications, even if they don't quite follow the brief. His passion for asset management and the importance of informed decisions have been a constant thread in his service, always reminding us that infrastructure is more than just roads and buildings. It's about community connection, service delivery and legacy. James is also deeply supportive of the Walkerville Oval upgrades and the opportunity they present to better link with the Memorial Gardens, as well as the redevelopment of 39 Smith Street, as well as his creative branding names that he's come up with. He sees this as a chance to honour history while supporting our growing and evolving community and ensuring that the precinct also contributes to the economic development of Walkerville Terrace. On behalf of the town of Walkerville, we thank you, James, for your 10 years of service to local government and for your considered and future-focused contributions to our community. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Certificate to present.
And you have to have a photo.
Well, we can do that.
Still love
Yeah, you'll love the photo, James.
Just production,
Thank you.
He loves a good photo.
Very nice, everyone. Thank you very much. Congrats.
Well deserved, mate.
Well done, James.
Any other council member updates? Okay. Item 10 is questions from the gallery, and there are none. Item 11, questions without notice. No questions without notice. We have no questions with notice. Item 13 is motions without notice. Are there any motions without notice? No. And so item 14 is motions with notice, which we have one from Councillor Williams, the Walkerville Fair location. Councillor Williams, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Jones. It's all pretty straightforward and clear there in the motion. I also put in my reasonings for why I thought it should go back to Walkerville Oval. The only thing which I thank administration too for their comments down the bottom about consulting with the cricket club or with the sports club as well, because that will probably impact on a game of theirs. And I agree completely. However, at the same time, I don't think that should stop us going back there, because I think it's probably the only time the council requests, or in the past has really requested that I can think of, for the use of the oval. So as much as I believe they should certainly be consulted, I still don't think that should really stop us from going back and using the fair there, because it's really, with all of the upgrades and particularly the access to car parking around the sites, once the rec centre's done as well, it's just the logical place. And you just mentioned about activating, we've been talking about activating the Walkerville Terrace and economic development as well. We're getting more people in that precinct more often. And there are a number of other ideas that I had in amongst this, but I think step one's to get back to the oval, including some other thoughts I'd had was possible road closure at some stage between Warwick Street and Smith Street, or even Stephen Terrace and Smith, and try and make it fair throughout the whole area, so the traders on the terrace don't even necessarily have to leave their business to be part of the fair. But that might be something we can look at in the future. But for now, I think it's just important to get it back to the oval.
Okay.
So I'd be happy to move.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Nenke?
Yeah, I'll second that. I've commented a few times that when I first moved here, I think it was the first year that I moved into the township, my wife went over there, our little son at the time, and it was fantastic. I mean, it was, for someone who was new in the township, to be able to meet a lot of people from the school and see them in a social setting. I think just being at night time as well, just added a bit of flair to it. And I remember there was bands from St Andrews and that were there, and there was also might have been quiet, and there's some act from Walkerville Primary School as well. But no, I thought it was excellent, and I think it does make sense. It's in the heart of Walkerville, and there might be some economic spin-off to it as well down Walkerville Terrace. So yeah, I think we can definitely have a try of it and see where it goes. If it causes too much damage or whatever it might be, then we can reassess in the future. But definitely that's where it should be. We should do everything we can to get it back there.
Okay, would anyone else like to speak for or against?
Yeah, look, I'll speak for it. Ultimately, with the major upgrades and scoreboard going in there at the Oval, I think this is a logical move if we're going to move the fair back to do it now. So I am supportive of the motion. Obviously, being mindful that when we look in the long term around the Levi Oval Master Plan, we'll need to think about how we can, gives us the opportunity to look at how we can better utilise Levi Oval in the future. But I think if we want to get an expanded fair, the reality is, with the foot space that the fair takes up, you're not going to be able to get too many more people in to the event as it currently stands. And I think we've done a great job maximising the event for Levi, but ultimately we want the fair to grow, and the only way it's going to grow and have the space for an event like that is at the Oval, so I'm supportive of it.
Anyone else like to speak for or against? Put it to a vote.
Sorry, I'll just add one more thing.
Yep, sure.
And that's that the clubs should also be encouraged to spruik membership during that time as well. I know that they probably haven't in the past. They've probably been busy either running a bar or the bowling club cooking a barbecue or whatever, or the Rotary Club. But it would be good for those clubs if they see the Oval being taken away from them for a day or two. I actually see that as a perfect opportunity for them to try and increase their membership, and hopefully in time, with a new facility built for the sports club as well as the bowling club, we're going to see that area activated even more, which once again will help with economic development. So.
Okay, all those in favour? That's carried. So item 15 now, the decision reports. Item 15.1 is the council resolution register. Andrew, anything to add?
No, I'll take it as read. Any comments that might come?
Are there any questions on the report? Okay, is there a mover? Thank you, Councillor Ritt, seconded Councillor Vanstone. All those in favour? That is carried. Item 15.2, the Medindi and Gilberton 3-hour parking survey for public consultation. James, anything to add?
Through the chair, I guess this just follows on from our workshop a couple of weeks ago, where we're proposing a pulse check on the rollout of the 3-hour parking from 2020-2021. So you'll notice in there that we've got the details around who will be getting letters and some time frames and costs.
Any questions on this report, survey? Councillor Neville?
Just one comment which I'd emailed to you, James. Just one on page 18, the question, because not all of Medindi and all of Gilberton is covered by the 3-hour parking. The question is the 3-hour parking zone working in your suburb? Well, we don't expect everyone to understand their entire suburb. I wonder if the intention of that question is like, is it working where you live in that suburb?
Yeah. James?
Through the chair, we could reword that to street, if that was more applicable, more specific to their location.
Because I took it that's what the intention was, and that makes it really clear that we're interested in, is it working in your street, your area, in that part of the suburb?
Yep. Okay. Any other questions?
And also I would like to ask if we can add more couple of questions like the people who are with the disability can add their points if they have constitution without the disability, or the vehicle details we can add more from the residents.
James?
Through the chair, I believe the 3-hour parking is probably more around parking turnover. Disability parking is probably a specific requirement that we would need to do a separate questionnaire or engagement on.
Can we add that question in here? Or?
Through the chair, I wouldn't recommend in this survey. We would want to probably focus on that individually and not get it lost in a 3-hour parking review.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Would someone like to move it?
Moving to speak to it if I can. I just want to thank the administration for getting it to this point. I know we've been looking at it over a couple of workshops about the focus and whether we go with I guess the township-wide survey. I think we've honed in on the issue that mattered most and the feedback a lot of us have had around in that election period and after, where people were concerned around how the 3-hour parking zone was implemented and they wanted it reviewed. This is giving them the opportunity to review and have their say. So I do like with this survey that we are being specific on the issues raised and going out and being targeted in our approach here. And I think it's, we've got the right outcome and people, if they've got concerns, this is their opportunity to speak up out in the community.
I'll second that. Councillor Trotter, would you like to speak to it?
I think you've covered it.
Yep.
The only question I have would be, is there any merit in asking whether they've got any off-street parking? So if it comes back with, someone's quite upset about, some people may be more upset about it because they don't have off-street parking.
Yeah, that's true.
So that would be that's the only thing I could see, that if someone didn't have a driveway to park a car in, they're more likely to have an issue with the parking restrictions than someone who does have off-street parking.
I guess through the chair, we do have sort of the comments and suggestions box at the end of the survey, which if there was a specific need around off-street parking or whether they could definitely provide that information there, and we could extract that from the survey results.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else like to speak for or against? All those in favour? That's carried. Item 15.3, the Margaret Street proposed road sale. James, anything to add?
Through the chair, similar to the previous item, this was workshopped a couple of weeks ago. We are sort of just initiating the process, so council will see further details regarding valuations and consultations, etc. once we formalise the process, but this report is essentially allowing us to commence the process with the applicant and come back to council at a later date.
Any questions? Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. Just One thing, as I was reading through the report and the recommendation, I was just wondering whether point 2 should actually be point 1, because would we commence the road closure process if the owner of 12 Margaret Street decided that they weren't going to progress any further? So I was just wondering whether they should be swapped, whether point 2 should be point 1, point 1 should be point 2, and perhaps a bridge between them might say, and should the owner of 12 Margaret Street agree to the process, then commence the road closure.
Thank you. True.
That's
I didn't
what
think
I
about
was
it
gonna
like that.
say. Stop, fun to do.
James?
Through the chair, yes, we could change that recommendation tonight.
Happy for you to change it?
So councillor Trotter, that deals with your question?
It deals with
Yeah.
part of it. The second part is, I know we mentioned that we were going to, all parties that were connecting to that road, that we were going to advise them of the road closure. Is that not something that we were going to do? Or?
Through the chair, that will happen through the process.
Yeah.
So the attachment A sort of provides a further detail into each step of the process. And yes, they will be contacted and council will see that in subsequent reports. This is almost just the approval to initiate with the applicant and start the process, I imagine.
That's fine. I'm happy to second.
Jim, probably at the end of point 1, you might want to put, and should the owner of
Yeah.
12 Margaret Street agree to the process, and council.
So are you moving that as a motion then?
Yeah.
No one's going to move it yet, yeah.
Yeah.
So what was it? And should
And should the owner of 12 Margaret Street agree to the process, then you go on to point 2.
So was that the next part?
Agree to the process. Just saves you doing work that might not end up going anywhere.
Okay, so you're happy to move that as it's set out there on the screen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so councillor Trotter, you're seconding that. Anyone else like to speak for or against?
Yeah, just a quick first question. Will through you, Your Worship, will the applicant be made aware that the cost to do this process will still be borne by the applicant? Shall it proceed or not proceed?
Yes, through
consultation?
Through the chair. Yes, so they'll be made aware of, I guess, each milestone in the process and fees that would be due at those milestones. So if it is a survey cost or a consultation cost, they will be made aware of that and have to pay up to that point. If it doesn't proceed any further, then they won't pay the full costs, whether it be title changes, those sorts of things, because for whatever reason it hasn't progressed any further.
Yeah, and follow-up question only if it's appropriate is what type of costs, because I'm conscious to the applicant that they can go through this whole process and it can be rejected in consultation. What type of costs are we expecting, or rough guide are we expecting an applicant to fork up for something that may not even go ahead?
Through the chair, the initial costs for things like survey, site investigations, a small site like this would probably be around the $5,000 mark, and then it would come back to council with what the extra cost will be, whether that be lodgement of plans with the Lands Titles Office, consultations, etc. But that initial cost of sort of the further investigation that we need to do to see if it's a viable sale, I'd ballpark at about 5,000 without a quote in front of it.
So the guide would work with worst case if the process goes all the way through in consultation. Could this person be up for 20, 30, 40,000? Are we talking?
At this stage, probably too early to say. There will be a next whole point that will come back to council once we've sort of got all the valuation documentation, the survey, etc. So really tonight we're just looking to kick the process off. Costs and developments will sort of go along, and we'll make sure the applicant's kept up to speed as we go along.
Yeah.
Councillor Lenke.
Thank you, Mayor. Just the next step, you're saying it's coming back to council again, and the next step will a bit of discussion around the valuation. Is that right? Yep.
Yes, please.
Through the chair, yes. So we'll have some more information around, so we'll engage valuation companies to get an idea of value of the land. So we'll get things like any services, boundary surveys, those sort of things. We don't have all that information in front of us tonight, but to sort of initiate this process, we do need a decision of council to at least get the ball rolling.
No, exactly. And I'm,
Yep.
I'm comfortable with the process there.
Yeah.
I was just, I suppose, curious about the next step. And because
Valuation is an early approach step.
but if there's going to be more than the one resident, if we're opening it up for potential sale, does the valuation just come off baseline and then we'll put it up to market?
Through the chair, council will see the valuations. We will need to, I believe the policy says we need to get 2 different valuations. So, from qualified conveyancers and things like that. So we'll be able to assess those and determine which path we want to go down. But that'll be at council's discretion.
Yeah, but sorry, what I'm trying to get at, if there's going to be more than one potential purchaser, it'll pretty much go to market based on.
I guess, I'm not too clear. If we do get those, other respondents willing to bid on the land, I'll probably have to refer to our consultant and work out how that might play out. But we will have some detailed valuation that can guide our thinking. Whether it goes out to an open market bid, I can't answer that, unfortunately.
Fair enough. Okay, thank you.
So I have one more question, James. Since the council is selling this road to this owner, and after it's sold, so who's gonna be responsible for the maintenance for this, like the beach spray and all the?
Yeah, so once it's sold, it becomes their property and they're responsible,
All right, and of course involved. with-
whoever the buyer is.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Right, it's a moved motion. Does anyone else wish to speak for or against it? Okay, all those in favour? That is carried. So next item is 15.4, the Walkerville Sports Club Concept Design Tender. Ross, do you wish to speak to this?
Nothing further, but happy to take questions.
Are there any questions?
Look,
That's
I'll
Rick.
preface this by saying, obviously, when we get to debate, I'll be obviously very supportive of the motion. I'm just, or recommendation, I beg your pardon. Just wanting more so a question. Obviously, keen to renovation process, keen to get this out there, but how do we make it aware, or will it be made aware to tenderers that if we decide to go ahead with this project, it's really going to be subject to extra funding coming through from potentially state and federal governments? Because I don't think council at this stage, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not in our plan to fully fund it, and we believe we're going to be pushing for state and federal funding for the sports club design tender. Can I just seek some clarification?
I think it does say in there that the decision will be dependent on funding being received.
I thought it did, but I just wanted to make it clarify. So when we go out to tenders, that'll be made clear to tender.
So we'll pay whoever the winning tenderer is for a process. Whether that goes forward or not will depend on funding.
Okay, then I'm happy with that.
Through the chair, we're only getting the concept design, so we're not going to detailed design.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
it could actually be a
start of
different firm again that does that.
Different firm. Okay, cool. Yep.
Any other questions?
Just one question I meant to send through to James and Ross as well. On page 37, where it shows the preferred new build location, about how much square metre would that be in that area? I mean, you may not have done that. It doesn't matter if you don't know, Ross. But I know it said about there was the desire for 200 square metres upstairs, which I'm guessing is the whole size. But I was just wondering how much space that blue area took up. The red area took up.
Through the chair, I'm not entirely sure exactly what the square meterage is of that, but it would be a slightly larger footprint than the existing sports club, purely in the fact that there would have to be enough room for the 4 change rooms on the bottom level. Obviously, they've got 2 at the moment, and we had those minimum requirements for the function space. So I'd imagine, because the general intention is to push it as far north as possible, it would have to be confined to that footprint. But the footprint wouldn't be, it would be slightly larger than the existing club, but I can't imagine it would be too much larger.
Yeah, I actually thought from the meeting that we'd had and what you'd put in there in the brief was really good, and in particular that part you just mentioned about going as far north as you can, because I know over a period of time there's been different designs and different desires to try and have the bowling club and sports club in the same location, which we know hasn't ended up happening with being just one building. However, geographically, the closer you get the two together, the more likelihood there is of the two clubs working together, sharing volunteers, perhaps even the plaza space that you show there of them mixing in that area. So yeah, I thought it was really good. Thank you.
Any other questions, Councillor Zeppel?
Just following on from Councillor, the bottom of point 6 has got the detail. Thank you. That you're looking for.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, is there a mover? Councillor Ritt, thank you. Would you like to speak to it?
Happy with that what I said before.
Okay, Councillor Core has seconded it. Okay, anyone else like to speak for or against? All those in favour? That's carried. Item 15.5 is the Audit and Risk Committee Activities Report. Mohammed, do you want to add anything? No? Any questions on the report?
Just actually a question relating to point 3 about receiving the minutes. So I only just picked this up today, so hence the not notice of staff. But on page 50, it's got, and I'm sure this is just a typo, on page 50 at the top it's got a recommendation and it's got carried and lost. So can that just be rectified in the minutes if possible? It's either lost or carried?
Yes, well it's moving into confidence, so it would have been carried.
It would have been, but we do need to, these type of things for records, we have to have right. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, it's moving out of confidence.
I'm assuming it's carried, but I don't assume anything because in writing it doesn't say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so that will get rectified.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, is there a mover? Councillor Zeppel, thank you. Seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All those in favour? That's carried. So now on to 16 information reports. And 16.1 is the monthly financial report. Mohammed, anything to add?
Nothing from the Word, Mayor.
Any questions on the report? Is there a mover? Councillor Trotter, seconded by Councillor Williams. All those in favour? That's carried. 16.2, the monthly works report for May 25. James, anything to add?
Through the Chair, not really. We have updated, this is the second report that has some further information around the major projects. We will get into some of the commercial and confidence items in the confidential section tonight with the major projects, but it does give some photos, timelines, budgetary stuff, so the public can start to see that and see how the projects are tracking. So that's probably the biggest change.
Any questions?
No, excellent.
Councillor Williams?
Thank you, Mayor Jones. I was over at the Oval on the weekend, and I was explaining to some of the people, or a couple of people at the club, that if they've got things that they'd like to have done there around trees or anything like that, they really need to email council.
Yep.
And not just ask the outdoor staff when they're there and then expect it to happen. So I was trying to explain that to them, because they were talking about some of the trees that were hanging over, and you guys may not even be aware of it. Some of the trees hanging over the northern mound, but also near the old scoreboard, there's actually trees that are hanging over the boundary line of the Oval. So I'm not sure whether they have brought that up with you or not, but I did stress to them to.
Through the Chair, we are looking at some of those trees with the new lighting as well, so we are going to meet with our arborist out there to look at some pruning, and I think we'll do a good tidy up around the Oval. But yeah, I would encourage any community member or sports club member to contact council directly, and that goes straight in as a customer request, and will be responded to. So.
I think once I pointed it out, they understood that, yeah, you just can't go around
Sometimes.
Okay, any other questions on the report?
Thanks, Joe.
Okay, is there a mover? Councillor Trotter, thank you. Seconded Councillor Williams. All those in favour? That's carried.
Great report.
So item 17, confidential reports. First one is 17.1, the major projects and status update. And so we'll commence with a resolution to take us into confidence. Yep, so everyone's on there, all right. So who's removed that? Councillor Williams, seconded Councillor Zeppel. All those in favour? That's carried. So the time being 7:36, we'll move into confidence.